Hi, everyone. Welcome to the second episode of Thoughtium's latest perspective series, Future-Proofing Learning at Your Organization. My name's Mary. I'm a consultant here at Thoughtium and your host for today's conversation. If you're joining this Perspectives for the first time, we're talking about all things current and future learning trends and how that's transforming how organizations deliver great learning experiences. There's three pieces to the Perspective series. First is 3 live conversations, the second of which you're watching right now, an in-depth article on the topic, which is now available live on our website. And the third piece is a toolkit to help you apply this topic to your work and with your teams, which will be available next week. You can find everything that I just mentioned at thoughtium.com/perspectives. And make sure to mark your calendars now for the third and final conversation of this series, which will be next week at a special day and time, Wednesday, November 15th at 10:30 a.m. Central. And you can catch that live at thoughtium.com/live. With that, I am really thrilled and so honored to be welcoming our guest to today's conversation. She is a longtime Thoughtium community member and just an exceptional L&D leader, Kristy Callahan. Kristy is currently the head of learning and development for the US and Canada at GE Healthcare. She's also a board member of the Life Sciences Trainers Education Network. She has over 20 years of experience in the healthcare industry, working from startups to billion-dollar corporations, and she's really worked her way up the ladder, not just in L&D, but building expertise in sales and marketing as well, which is a great skill set to have in the L&D space nowadays as well. But her passion for development is what keeps bringing her back to the L&D space. She also has her master's in leadership development and is an accredited ICF coach. And I can just say from the Thoughtium perspective of knowing Kristy that she's just truly an exceptional people developer, people leader, and is truly a gifted L&D leader, both for her teams and her business. So thrilled to have her on the show today to talk about future-proofing learning. Kristy, welcome.
Thank you so much. Honored to be here. Excited for the conversation.
Well, I was going to ask you, the first question we always ask is, what's one word to describe how you're coming in today?
There you go.
Is it
Excited.
Excellent. Already off to a good start with our questions here. Just so happy to have a chat with you about future-proofing learning. And let's just get it going. Why don't you start by telling us a bit about yourself and your career, particularly in the L&D space? Would be great.
Sure. My entire career has been in the healthcare industry. So that's the only L&D space that I'm really familiar with. But it is quite transferable no matter where you are. It is something that is relevant. So I started in pharmaceutical sales, worked my way on up the ladder as you shared. And when I started, we took the people that were successful as sellers and brought them into L&D. So thankfully, along the way, I have learned a lot of the tools and techniques, and people like yourself that are experts within L&D have helped me along the way. But I really feel like I play the conduit between business and learning and development, ensuring that we keep the learner at the center in everything that we do. So it's been a really fun ride. I love the thrill, the rolling your sleeves up of startups, as well as, a bigger checkbook, the larger companies to be able to elevate the teams as well. So it's been an exciting career. Every day is different. Like I said, everything keeps pulling me back into learning and development because I have such a passion for bringing out the best in us as humans. And what does that look like? And what is your personal best, which is different than mine. So I love that as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, one of the themes that we were talking about when we were going to bring this perspective series forward on future-proofing learning, one of the themes that we had talked about was, how can L&D not just support the business, but how can they really be part of the business? So I feel like your background, having that experience of being a great seller, then moving to L&D, and that kind of aligns there. But yeah, an interesting theme to bring up. So why don't we start first with just the first part of our series, the trendy part, current and future learning trends. I'm just curious to hear from you in terms of you as an L&D leader leading an L&D org. How has your team really thought about your approach to L&D and how you work based on the shifting landscape of L&D over the last few years?
Yeah, so kind of interesting. I've only been here since February, so a little under a year. So it would be kind of fun to ask them that question. Um,
Mm.
I think it has been extremely beneficial that I have seen L&D done in many different ways. I've rolled up into different leaders, whether it be sales, commercial excellence, and now in HR. So all of that kind of changes the perspective of how you're seen and valued within the organization, and also where the influence is within each of those departments as well. So I think it's important that we never get lazy or satisfied with the way that our teams are operating, because we need to continue to be nimble and agile. Whether you're a small company or a large L&D team, you need to be able to be nimble enough to meet the needs of the business. You have to be able to be there short term, and then also being able to look up and out and see what's coming our way, so we don't have to be reactive. The more that we can deliver ahead of what they're asking for, the better.
Yeah. So that's interesting, the concept of how can we be nimble to be able to execute on what we need now, but also nimble in terms of looking ahead, seeing what's coming down the pipe. Curious, I know it's just been a short time in your current role, but any thoughts on how you all as a team have been looking forward? Any thoughts or examples around that?
Sure. So one way that we, about 6 months ago, so early on, I identified that we could really bring in additional artificial intelligence as a foundational course. Generally, larger organization, you get a lot of buy-in, you got a lot of people signing off. It's just something that one person on my team kind of took and ran with, and he did an amazing job pulling it together. And then we had one leader that asked for it, and we had previewed it. A couple of us had seen it, and we knew that it was relevant enough for the business. And so, boom, we were ready. So we turned that around super fast. And then we're able to build on that and take it to the next level, instead of saying, okay, so do a whole needs analysis, ensuring that we're meeting the objectives. So we were able to be forward looking enough with that one. So that was just a really amazing way that we were ready before they even knew it. Because our products are AI. We do have many products that have AI in them, which is super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. That's great.
Sure.
Being able to link to your point of being that conduit between the business and the L&D, see that, hey, this is in our products, AI is part of it. We need to make sure that our workforce, our organization is ready to have that. So keeping your eye on the ball there, that's great. And I'm sure a very relevant trend that for people listening, AI, have heard plenty about it. Maybe more than we would like to in the press and such. But let me dive into one of the trends that we bring up, shameless plug here in the article for this perspective series, which is around the learning culture. Getting to know you and your background. I've heard you have a bit of experience in this area in terms of being able to build a learning culture. And it's something that we see as being even more critical moving forward, just with the rapid amount of change businesses are facing and skills that need to be changed rapidly. So any advice or thought on how to build an effective learning culture that you could pass on?
Yeah. So the organization that I was at previously, one of the things that we identified was we really needed to have a grounding purpose. So what is it that we're working towards? Why are we working so hard? What is in it? From ourselves individually and then collectively as a group. And so what does that look like? And then with that, we then worked with Thoughtium, which was amazing because we had so many people that were a part of it to build our mission and our vision, which I loved. It was, our vision was driving curiosity. So encouraging that growth mindset. It wasn't something that existed previously at the organization I was with. Generally, most people were just, doing their jobs and working really hard, but empowering a growth mindset was a little bit new to that culture. So we wanted to inspire that. And then we also wanted to ensure that while there's a lot of work that we could do, we wanted to ensure that we were elevating ourselves and doing learning that matters. So that became our mission. So learning that matters. And then we took it to the next step internally, which I think bonded us even closer as a team, in saying, training, it's not for everyone. And we made t-shirts and stickers, and we kind of, joked around with it because it's true. It's not for everyone. And it's a slogan that I stole from Nebraska because I'm from there, which is hilarious. Nebraska is not for everyone. It's not. It's a great place, but it's not for everyone. Which I currently live in the Chicago area now. But with that saying, it was a way for us to say, like, this is hard. It's hard work, and there's a purpose behind it, and we believe in it. And that's okay if not everyone does. We'll hopefully grow and increase those that want to be a part of the fun. But it's not for everyone.
Yeah. So do you mean training is not for everybody? I feel like that is just a really catchy slogan in terms of like recognizing, is it more of like an L&D team slogan or more of like a nod to the organization of like, hey, we recognize that maybe training is not your forte because this is driving that curiosity is maybe new for you. So like what angle do you mean that from? Is it both?
Yeah, it was both. It was, internally, it was like, not everyone can do training. It's hard. It's hard work. Not everyone enjoys it and thrives in it. It's not for everyone. Some people come in to continue to move up the corporate ladder and they're like, whoa, I did not know what I signed up for. So we meant it a little bit like that, but then we also meant it like training is not for everyone as the learners. Like not everyone wants to grow and learn and evolve. But for those of you that do, come on, like it's going to be a great ride. We've got a lot for you. So we kind of made it a whimsical, like Alice in Wonderland style. It was fun. Really proud of it. And I know that the team still reflects on it now.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting spin in terms of like what L&D can take away because, and this is my opinion, so would love to hear your thoughts on it as well. I feel like L&D is driven to think about, how can we really give learning for everyone, like constantly thinking about how can we get people enrolled, how can we get them bought in. And I love this mentality of recognizing that learning culture or just the desire to learn, that spirit of learning also comes from within people. We can show our value of like, if you come with us, you're going to have so many cool things. But if you're not ready for that, that's okay. And really focusing on those, what value you can bring versus convincing people to come along. So I love that spin on it.
Yeah. Our energy and our capacity is only so great. So we could continue hitting our head against the wall, or we could start flourishing with those that are like-minded and want to elevate them and elevate ourselves along at the same time.
Yeah, that's great. Any other thoughts in terms of maybe that how you drive learning, maybe just within your L&D team, their growth? Curious about that.
Yeah, so that's something I think that is a natural skill set of mine, is to identify strengths in others. So strength finders, individualization, and then maximizer are two things that I like to pair together that I think help me to lead the team in a way that not a lot of people would consider or think about doing. And in addition to the agility that I naturally gravitate towards. So what is it that you do that makes you in flow? You're working and you don't even realize you're working. How can you do more of that? Because that's when you're at your best. And we work more than we do anything else. Maybe some people sleep more than they work, but in general, we are working more than we're doing anything else. So how do we continue to elevate you and empower you and help you be seen, valued, heard for what your gift is? Because I know that there are org design people out there that are probably cringing, thinking I have no idea what I'm talking about. But let's face it, in corporate America, you have the team that you have. So let's find the best in each one of those individuals and how do we flourish that? And when people are doing what they love to do, it doesn't feel like work. It feels more like play or being in flow, as I shared earlier. So that's when I think my team is at the ideal state. Obviously, there's still work that, nobody really likes to do that we just have to, roll up our sleeves and do, but you get that done and then you have more time to do what it is you love to do. And they have a voice and feel like they have a seat at the table. Everyone should be heard and valued on the team.
Yeah. I love that. In terms of like building the spirit of learning in your team, it's really taking the time to lean in and understand what drives them and how can you align what they do to that versus looking at what needs to be done and trying to fit people like square peg round hole. That saying.
Yeah.
You're finding the right spot for people. I also love
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I have to say it because it just made me laugh in terms of the we spend all our time working. The era of COVID naps, maybe that we had in 2020 are over. You're probably online most of your day now, right?
I
I
miss
think we could
those.
say that.
I forgot to take those. Yes.
Well, I mean, hearing about you, I doubt you were the COVID napper, but some people are like, oh, it's 2023, time to wake up, maybe.
I missed that. I didn't know that was an
Yeah.
option. I didn't see that on my Instagram reel. But
Great.
I do think that once we find what it is that we do so well, it then helps them to connect better with our stakeholders, which there's so much influence that goes into the L&D role. So not only there are times when you have to react and just take the work that's given to you, but how can you feel empowered to ask a couple more questions, dig a little bit deeper? Do you know the objectives? Do you know what they really skill and behavior they're trying to work towards? And how will we know if someone gets there in the end? And that's the ideal state. Do we know what it is that the stakeholder cares about? That's like bringing in the selling piece of it. So, and then, what in our toolbox can we pull from that will help to ensure that we deliver it in something that's sticky? Because when you're delivering things virtual or hybrid, like people are wore out from the screens. And so how do you make it different? How do you make it unique? How do you make it relevant?
Yeah.
And it takes
Yeah.
more time. It takes less time to do it live, I think.
Well, I guess it takes maybe less effort on L&D's part, but like to your point, like the stickiness at like live events, those memories stick with you, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
something that we've been mulling over like with this topic as well is like how can we really drive stickiness moving forward? Like when tech skills are getting more complex, the competitive like everything's getting more complex, which means like you have to build things that are harder. You have to build skills
Yeah.
that are maybe more complex. And then that means like, how can you make learning that more progressive journey so that there's that stickiness there and that incremental growth over time? So interesting thought there. I have to ask, I'm just curious. And also, Kristy's worth a quick Google search as well, because she has some really great content out there about how she's pulled in new styles of learning. But I'm curious if you had any thoughts or maybe an example of how you've been rethinking what learning looks like in the hybrid or the virtual space to build that stickiness.
Yeah, I think it's like chicken and the egg. You have to have what's worthy of learning. You also need to layer in that everybody's coming at different levels. So to your point of like thinking about how it's like so hard now, because even to just do AI, like, I'm pretty green in AI. Like I read it because I think we need to. I don't really I chat GPT sometimes, but I'm not like fully immersed in it like people that could run circles around me with the words that they're using that I don't understand what they mean. So you've got like all different kinds of learners now, and everybody loves the immediate gratification. And especially in a regulated industry, like there's that additional pause that you have to take. So it's just fascinating and how it's ever evolving. I've also just recently saw some on LinkedIn by Kevin Cruz that people aren't necessarily doing the pre-work ahead of time. I was like, oh my gosh, right? Like, because people are just exhausted. they're just like showing up to check the box. So if that's the case, how do we maximize that? How do we make this relevant for them? And then are we cutting it down so deep, like so much that then it's lost any of its value? But then I think we have to kind of get people intrigued and enticed to then say, like, they come to the first event and then, okay, I'm intrigued. Now I need to know more. I want to go deeper into this. I want to take this to the next level.
Yeah. That's something I haven't thought about, but it's a really good point of how can you make that first time that you're starting something like a learning or they're interacting with L&D, like the time that you're piquing the interest of like, oh, okay, I want to come back for more.
Right.
Instead of, I think that's a really interesting point, and probably that marketing background showing through of yours. Not something I've thought about. But yeah.
Can we cue M&Ms? You got one shot. You got one opportunity. I'm just kidding. Sorry, too much.
Oh my, I feel like is that the next level of this platform, is that we just like cue funny graphics in the middle of comments.
I love that.
I'm going to pitch that later. Speaking of the intrigued part.
Yeah, Anthony will love it, I think.
Yeah, Anthony's smiling, I'm sure, right now. Well, any lessons in terms of that? You've already shared so many, but I'm just curious to as a last thought, any kind of lessons that you can share in terms of like your career journey in the L&D or space, or your experience leading L&D teams that you would like to share that would help carry and other L&D leaders or up and coming leaders forward in the future? That's actually a two-parter. Let's start there with what lessons would you give people who are coming up in the L&D space based on your background, your experience?
To listen and observe more than you're proving yourself initially. Yeah. And to also be okay with what needs to be an A effort versus a C. Okay, B minus. Because in an ideal state, there's so much work to be done that not everything can be A plus. So you need to be okay with a minimal viable product, and to be able to say, here's this, let's start here and let's see where we can go from that.
Yeah. Progress, not perfection.
Totally.
Yeah. All right. Now, maybe the second part of my long-winded question: what advice would you give other L&D leaders right now that would help them carry their teams into the future?
Well, first of all, thank you for this platform. I think those of us that are continuing to learn, walking the walk and ensuring that we are continuing to evolve. We're continuing to figure out like, okay, so I have a seat at the table. What do I need to do to ensure that I'm continuing to be a part of the business, that there's never a question whether or not L&D plays a significant role in the business impact. How do we measure that? What does that look like? Like, there's all kinds of that goes behind it that further complicates it, but you want to remove that question from ever being raised. Like, what value do they bring? I want them to already know and see and feel the value that we bring as L&D professionals. And the more that we are relevant to short-term and long-term, the easier that is.
Yeah, that's great.
And the more stakeholders that you have, the more complicated it gets, and the more fun that you have trying to figure it out.
Fun is a good word for it. Yeah. I mean, you love this space, so for you, that's fun, I'm sure. I'm sure for other L&D leaders too.
It is fun. I think as long as you're dealing with people that are respectful, it is fun. And it is a challenge where it's like, you want to prove, I know how good L&D is, and I know the value that it can bring the organization. So let me prove to you.
Yeah. Or the value it already does.
Have leaders bought in, like, that's amazing. Like, awesome. Let's go rock. But usually there's a few you have to sell on it.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for a great conversation. There's so many things that you've shared about how to really drive an effective L&D organization, what great learning looks like, how to bring out the best in your team, how to show up effectively as an L&D leader, grow your career. So just so many things that you've been able to share from your background, your wisdom. So I really appreciate you really bringing it to the virtual screen today. So if you don't know, we always close our live shows with a round of rapid fire questions for our guests. So if you're ready, we'll go ahead and dive right in. So first question, what are you reading, watching, or listening to right now?
So I'm currently reading, I actually have it right here on my desk, The Trusted Learning Advisor by Keith Keating. Dr. Keith Keating is awesome. I recommend every L&D professional, future leader of L&D or existing leader of L&D takes a look at that. It will challenge you in many different ways and give you tactical things to kind of work through as well. So I've really loved reading that. And I've scribbled all over it. I like the tactical old school. It's stickier to me if I hold it and read it versus the Kindle.
Yeah. Well, it's so relevant to what we're talking about today. I got to ask a follow-up, like what's one insight from that book that just you love and really stuck with you?
Yeah, there's several pages within it that I've like dog-eared, but I want to workshop with the team, like what it looks like with our stakeholders of, are we credible? Do we have the value? And then, continuing to work through our business impact story, which is not easy.
Great. Well, okay. Second one, maybe a little harder. Think about something you admire about yourself and fill in the blank. If the world were more like me, it would be more what?
Empowered.
Empowered. Oh, that's so cool. You're empowered. That's great.
I know, right? We're all empowered.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
nothing we can't do.
Nothing we can't do. All right. Next thing. What's something you're grateful for right now?
I'm grateful for this opportunity. So thank you. I really do value this. I think this gives us an opportunity to pause and reflect in the daily busy to think about what makes us good at what we do, ensuring that we're pausing, we're elevating, we're remaining current. It's also so important, and we learn from each other in so many different ways. So thank you for this time.
Well, so flattered that you're grateful for the platform. So
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, last question. What's one thing you're excited about now that we're entering the holiday season?
Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday. I love it that it doesn't have the burden of gifts that go along with it. And that it truly is just about family, spending time together, football, eating too much, too many rolls, too many pies, like just a gluttonous fun.
You must like cooking, because when I think of Thanksgiving, I'm like, oh, the chore of cooking.
No, I'm a horrible cook. So I don't do
That's why
any
you
of
like
it.
Yeah.
I don't
You
do
don't do
anything.
that.
No, which is probably why I love it.
That's awesome. Well, thanks, Kristy, so much for joining. It's been really a pleasure to bring you on, and we were honestly surprised that we haven't brought you on the platform yet. So I truly am so glad that I could be the one to have this conversation with you today. And just again, yeah, thank you for an awesome conversation.
Yeah, honored to be here. Thank you so much for the work you're doing.
Great. Thanks, Kristy. All right. Well, this is Kristy Callahan, Head of Learning and Development for the US and Canada at GE Healthcare. A really just great, I definitely enjoyed the conversation. I'll leave it at that. Thank you all for joining out there. Go ahead and make sure to mark your calendars for the third and final conversation as part of this perspective series with Stephanie Lyras, who is the Director of Change Management, Engagement, and Adoption at Degreed. Someone I used to work with, actually. So excited to have a conversation with an old colleague on this show, and be able to really dig into how do you drive learner engagement, L&D trends, all the things we've already been talking about. And make sure to join us at our special date and time, Wednesday, 10:30 a.m. Central, for that conversation. And you can stream that at thoughtium.com/live. You can also access that for this session's recording as well as the previous ones, and go to thoughtium.com/perspectives for everything related to this series. Thanks for joining, and have a great rest of your day.